I campaigned alongside you, Robert Jenrick, to remain during the Brexit referendum. You've since been a vocal backer of almost every other option since. If you're allowed to change your mind on Brexit, why aren't the public?
Well, here's the thing, Kieran. I believe in democracy. I was one of the members of Parliament. 90% of members of the House of Commons voted to have that referendum. And we voted in that referendum to give the public the ultimate say. The government spent millions of pounds putting leaflets through your doors saying that we will abide by the outcome of the referendum. Almost every MP, certainly every Labour MP, every Conservative MP who was elected in 2015 was elected on manifestos that said very clearly, we will respect the outcome of the referendum. And nothing will do more damage to public trust in democracy than failing to deliver on the outcome of that vote. Thousands of people in our area voted for the first time in that referendum. There were turnouts in parts of this constituency and Sherwood far above how they are at general elections. People coming out to vote because they cared about this issue and they expected that their democratically elected members of Parliament would take that result and implement it. And I'm sorry if you disagree with me in that judgment, but that's the judgment that I've made, and I'm completely okay with it because I think that my duty as a member of Parliament is to respect referendums, to respect democracy, and to abide by the wishes of my constituents.
Thank you. Okay. And we're going to go around to Jay Henderson now.
Well, yes, if he can change his mind, we can as well. So as I've said, I'd like to see another referendum with all the options for reform and for leaving, all the deals on the table that we, the people, can vote for. Government haven't executed what they said they were going to execute, so put it back to democracy, put it back to us, and let us have our say again. Stop calling more general elections and call another referendum.
Thank you. It would have been nice if on any of the 16 times in Parliament that the Liberal Democrats proposed a people's vote, if the Labour Party had actually backed us and we could have had that by now. The reality is, as has just been said, people do change their minds, but actually, even if people haven't changed their mind, what we're being offered is not what was being talked about in 2016. You can still want Brexit, but not this Brexit, not this hard Brexit, which was never mentioned in 2016. It's a completely different animal. It's like saying you voted to have a dog, so we're going to have a cat, and you've got to accept it. People should have the right to change their mind. I fully support a people's vote. If we win a majority, then that's, I've lost the word, a mandate, that's the word I'm looking for revoking Article 50. The reality is we're not likely to win a majority for the Liberal Democrats, but every vote we get, every seat we get, is then a fight for a people's vote, where we've led the argument for years and years and years.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Mr. Baggaley.
It talks about those communities. I grew up in those communities. I know those people, and I still know those people. And what they did not vote for, they did not vote for a selling off of our NHS to Donald Trump. Well, Robert, you say it's not going to happen. Let me try it's not going to happen. Okay, so try and answer this. When you go to Washington, you went to Donald Trump's inauguration, one of the only MPs to go, I know. There will be...
I know something about what I'm talking about.
I
spoke to Donald Trump's trade negotiator, and he says it's not on the table.
Okay, so Robert trusts Donald Trump. Robert trusts Donald Trump. I don't. If you want to think you can trust Donald Trump, tell that to the Kurds who defended us against ISIS and who were put out to die. On trade negotiations, there are three things that the US will want on trade negotiations. They will want access to healthcare, they want access to agriculture, and they want access to workers' rights. That's how trade negotiations work. The US is the biggest economy in the world, and Donald Trump has an America First trade policy, and this government are suggesting that we do a trade deal with them. It is absolutely outrageous, and one of those three things will be on the table, or all of them will be on the table. They will not accept us to leave off the table key parts of what they will want access to. It just doesn't work like that.
Thanks, Mr. Wright.
The NHS is not for sale. The Prime Minister couldn't have been clearer with that. That's been very clear in all of the trade discussions we've had so far. And I actually think this is a very sad argument. At every election I can remember, I think the first election I got involved in when I was 14 years old, the Labour Party put up a poster in my village saying that there was 24 hours to save the NHS. When they get desperate, they start scaremongering about the NHS, trying to scare vulnerable people into thinking that they're going to have charging for services which they rely on. The Conservative Party cares about the NHS. We're investing record sums in it. It's absolutely not for sale, and that will never happen. The Prime Minister couldn't possibly have been clearer.
Thank you, Mr. Jenrick.
Hours and hours waiting for treatment, but you're just scaremongering.
I think we'll go on.
What is on the table?
No, it's okay. I think we're going to move on to the next question.
People in
now.
corridors waiting to be
We're going to move on.
What's on the table, Robert?
Sorry,
That's
Mr.
on the
Wright,
table.
no,
Prime Minister
I'm
has
sorry, we're
said-
going to move on to
Well,
the
let me
question
answer the
5
question.
now.
If the NHS,
I think
if
that
the
now we're going to
NHS
move
is
on
on
to
the
question 5
table,
now.
we will
No, we're
walk
going
away
to
from
the
the
next
trade
question.
negotiations. So
Thank you,
we couldn't
Mr.
have been
Jenrick.
clearer.
Thank you, Mr. Jenrick. Do we have a Johnny